Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Laura Elaine, where I talk about homesteading, homemaking, cleaning, organization, motherhood, all of these things. Today I'm talking about how to can homemade spaghetti sauce. These tomatoes that I'm using are frozen. I grew these in my garden last summer and then I just stuck them in my freezer because I didn't have time to get to them. So now, before the next growing season starts, I want to can them into spaghetti sauce and I want to show you how to do that. As you can see, I have a sink full of water. You want to run hot water and then just put your tomatoes in there, and this is so easy to do. The first step is to peel your tomatoes, so I just pinch and then the skin comes off so easily. This is the first step to prepping your tomatoes, just like that. And then I just have a bowl that I'm putting all of my tomatoes in and throwing the skins away. I know you can dehydrate them and save the skins and do other things, but I'm not, I'm just throwing them away. That is the first step. Peel all of your frozen tomatoes. The next step after the tomatoes have been peeled is to weigh them, because this recipe calls for 32 pounds of tomatoes. So I'm just using a bathroom scale after I get a batch done. Then I pop it on my bathroom scale, and this is a little bit over 5 pounds. And then I'm going to add that to my 20-quart stock pot. I'll link the recipe that I'm using down below in the description. You can check that out. I want to start softening these tomatoes because then I'm going to use an immersion blender and blend them all up. So while I still have probably another 7 pounds worth of tomatoes that I need to peel the skins, I'm going to start heating this up and letting these tomatoes soften. As you can see here, I'm breaking down the tomatoes prior to using an immersion blender on them. You'll see later in the video that I use a cheesecloth to strain the excess juice out of the tomatoes to reduce the cooking time by several hours. The recipe I'm using recommends a honey strainer instead of a cheesecloth for this step. And while the honey strainer is definitely the fastest method, the cheesecloth still worked and was faster than stirring this for several hours. And while the pot is simmering and your tomatoes are softening, go ahead and work on the rest of your recipe. Guys, my eyes are crying. Oh, can't talk. I used my immersion blender and I blended all of the tomatoes down into this pretty liquidy sauce. I wanted to show you what I did after I blended with my immersion blender all the tomatoes down. I've been ladling the watery soup type liquid into this cheesecloth, and the cheesecloth is resting inside a colander and the colander is resting inside a bowl because I am straining off a lot of the liquid. Normally when you make spaghetti sauce, you just stir it constantly for about 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours to get it down to the spaghetti sauce type texture that you want, which is significantly thicker than this soup-like texture. So we're speeding up the process using a cheesecloth. So all I do is ladle this liquid into the cheesecloth like this. And I put as much as I can fit. And I've already done most of the 32 pounds of tomatoes. So I don't have that much left. That's why my pot looks pretty empty. And then I just pull all 4 corners of this cheesecloth here, and you should be able to see nice steady stream of liquid coming out. And then I squeeze at the top and just kind of work it around a little bit and give it some gentle squeezes. And I want to get quite a bit of liquid out. Sometimes I try to get as much liquid as I possibly can out so that it's basically a paste left in the cloth. And then I just put the paste in this smaller stock pot and it's helping to thicken that up. And so when I finally reach a consistency in the smaller stock pot that I like, I'll be done. If you overstrain your tomatoes, you can always add juice back in. It would be better to err on the side of overstraining than not straining enough out. But it's really what you want as far as texture goes in your spaghetti sauce that you're making. So then I just open this up, and I have just a metal slotted spoon, and I'm just gonna open this up. And you can see there's not a whole lot in there because it's just so much liquid. But the little bit there is, I'm just kind of scraping out that it's almost like tomato paste. And then I just stir it in to there. And I'm gonna take this over. And there's still quite a bit of liquid in this, so I just wring that out. And when I'm done with the cheesecloth, I'm just gonna throw it away. And then I drape it back over here. And then as the tomato juice collects in the bottom, I take my bowl and I carry it over to the kitchen sink where I have another bowl of tomato juice that I'm collecting, and I just dump it in there. There you can see the tomato juice that I have strained, and that's not even all of it. I didn't save this batch of tomato juice to can. I just ended up dumping it. However, you could can the tomato juice plain, or you could use it to make vegetable stock and can that. Next time I make spaghetti sauce, I'll likely save my juice and make stock with it. We're ready to move to the canning step of making spaghetti sauce, and I have the spaghetti sauce simmering here and getting it warmed up. This was a 2-day process, so I had to bring it back up to a good hot temperature. And then I have my water bath canner and water in there and jars filled with water, and they're just slowly warming up also. I have the lids in the back, and I'll eventually warm those up. I don't have those yet. And it's not necessary to do that now with lids these days, but I sometimes do anyways. And then I have my tea kettle in the back, and I will start it. It's nice to have a tea kettle of hot water going in case you need to add more hot water to your water bath canner after you get your jars in there. And over here, my setup looks like this. I have my rings set out and my lid lifter, and then I have just a paper towel, damp paper towel, and it also has some vinegar on it, and that I will use to wipe down the rims of the jars. And we're going to be putting some lemon juice in the jars, and so I have my measuring tool for that, and my ladle, and my jar lifter, and I don't have a debubbling tool, so I'm just using a plastic knife, and lemon juice. Here's my funnel. And I'll put my hot pot of spaghetti sauce on this. All right, now we're ready to fill jars. I've already filled all of them except for the last one, so I'm gonna show you how I do that. I had my empty jars in here, and I just took my jar lifter and I got it out, dumped out the hot water carefully, and I put it in the water bath canner, and then I took it and I set it over here. So my jar is right here, it's nice and warm, and my spaghetti sauce is right here. And I'm gonna take my funnel, pop it in there, and then just start filling this up. Like this. And then I fill it partially, and then I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. This is to help with the acidity level. Back in the day, tomatoes were more acidic, so you didn't necessarily need to add lemon juice, but today our tomatoes have been bred so that they are not as acidic, and you do have to add lemon juice to adjust the pH. And then I'm going to keep filling this up. And I do that just so that the lemon juice from the refrigerator doesn't hit a warm jar and cause any breakage. I like there to be warm liquid and sandwich that cold liquid in between two warm liquids. If that makes sense. And I'm going to fill this to a 1/2 inch headspace. And headspace is the space that you leave at the top of your jar. And this funnel, there's a little marking on the inside of my funnel that tells me where that 1/2 inch headspace is. And if for some reason you overfill, just take a spoon and get some out. I'm gonna take a look here. There's just a teeny bit more. I'm gonna fill it up with like that much. Okay. That looks good. I just take my funnel out and I'm going to debubble with this plastic knife. I have used a metal knife before. You're really not supposed to, but it works. So, oh yeah, there's a nice bubble. When you debubble, you go along the edges of your glass jar and you can see the bubbles coming up to the top. And that's kind of what you're looking for. Okay, that looks good. Then I'm going to take my paper towel that is just dampened with water and white distilled vinegar, and I'm going to wipe it along the top of the rim, and I'm getting some spaghetti sauce off. And I want to make sure I get that wiped off so that it can form a good seal. And I find that the vinegar really helps cut through, especially this has oil in it, so the vinegar helps cut through anything that might not have been cleaned off the top. That looks pretty good. Then I'm just going to take my lids, just one lid, and put it on top in my ring. And you just want to tighten fingertip tight. So, and this is hot, so I'm actually going to use these to hold my jar while I tighten it just fingertip tight. So then I'm going to take this and put it in my water bath canner. Okay, then you want to make sure that your water level is high enough. I'm going to need to add some water to this. You want 1 to 2 inches covering the tops of your jars, and I don't think I quite have that. So I have my tea kettle heating up because I don't want to, I could add cold water to it, but that's going to just take it that much longer to heat up because it's already got hot water in it, or pretty warm water. So I'm just going to warm up my tea kettle and pour some hot water in there. And I still have more sauce left, but I'm actually going to make spaghetti for supper tonight. And so I'm just going to use this and not bother trying to can a partial batch. My tea kettle is almost ready to whistle at me. I was going to say scream, but yeah, it does sound like it's screaming. So anyways, it is hot enough. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more water to my water bath canner. So you want the water to be 1 to 2 inches above the tops of your jars. Then I'm just going to add a splash of white distilled vinegar to this, and that just helps keep the glass jars from getting that cloudy film on them and keeps your canner, the inside of your canner, nice. Alright, I'm going to stick this in. I just want to see the water level. Yeah, that looks good. Looks like it's about an inch, maybe an inch and a half. I'm going to put the lid on that. I am at sea level, so the processing time is 40 minutes. If you are at an elevation higher than sea level, you'll have to adjust your processing time accordingly. There's charts for that you can go check out. But I'm at sea level, so 40 minutes for this processing time. And I'm going to bring this up to a rolling boil. I don't start the 40 minutes until this is boiling, and then I start my timer for 40 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and heat this up a little bit more. My 7 quarts of spaghetti sauce are in the water bath canner, and they have been processing for almost 40 minutes. You can see my timer back there has 1 minute left. Then I am going to remove the lid and I'm just going to let the jars sit in there for another 5 minutes. Let them adjust a little bit better to room temperature before I pull them out. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can maybe hear the boiling sounds, that rolling boil. When you're here in person, you can hear the boiling, and so that's how you know it's at the rolling boil. When it first starts, you can maybe see some water that has spilled over the edge. There's my timer. But when it first starts boiling, then some of the water might spit out the sides of the canner, and then I just adjust my temperature back here. So when I first brought it to a boil, it was a lot higher up, but then it's been boiling, I lowered it, and you just have to listen and kind of adjust it as need be. My timer went off, and I'm gonna go ahead and take the lid off and then set a timer for 5 minutes and let them just sit in there and rest. There they are. Oh, they look so pretty. And after my timer goes off, then I will take my jar lifter and I will carry them carefully from there over, that's where I set the lid. I prepared a spot here on my kitchen island. I put several towels down. You can put cutting board or whatever. You can see I previously canned and I didn't have enough padding and it left marks on my kitchen island. So you just want something to protect whatever surface you're putting it on. Wherever you set up where you're gonna end up putting your jars, it's gonna sit there for 12 to 24 hours. So just put it in a spot where it's okay to be undisturbed and you won't have people bumping into it or something like that. My timer just went off and I'm ready to take the jars out of the water bath canner and I'm gonna put them over here. So I have my jar lifter and then I like to have another kitchen towel or something just beneath it. It'll drip some water, and just in case anything ever breaks or anything like that, I just want to have this hand protected. Do not tip your jars as you try to get them out. You want to go and bring them straight up and not tip them. And that's a little tricky for me in particular because my microwave is so low. I am going to empty from the front to the back so that I can scoot them up and I won't have to tip them as much. You might not have that issue if your microwave is higher, you don't have a microwave and you have a hood or something like that, but just be mindful of that. Don't tip your jars as you try to get them out. There is standing water on the top, but it'll evaporate and don't worry about it. And there they are, 7 quarts. Now this one here, you can tell that one hasn't sealed yet. It still has a raised middle and it can take, up to 12 or so hours for a jar to seal. That's why you're supposed to let them sit and don't touch them. I'm not going to remove the rings or anything. I'm just gonna let them sit for a while. I think all the others have sealed. I didn't actually hear it. I was listening for them, but sometimes you don't even hear it. So I think all the others have, and we'll just hope that this one does. If it doesn't, then I'll just use it up right away. You can reprocess if you have enough, but I am already using the leftovers for supper tonight. So I already made up some noodles and some meatballs, and that's in there. So if that jar doesn't seal, I might just end up adding that to supper tonight and give it a little bit more sauce. I was just going to add, you do not want to store your jars with the rings on. So after that 12 to 24 hour period and the jars have sealed and you can see it, go ahead and remove the rings, and then when you store them, make sure there are no rings on them. I wanted to say one more thing before I forgot in regards to the spaghetti sauce that we canned today. When you are ready to go put it in your food pantry, before you take it downstairs or wherever you store it, do make sure that you take a paper towel and wet it with water and white vinegar, and then wipe down your jars, the lids, and around the rims and everything. You want to get any food particles that might still be left on there because you don't want to attract any insects or anything while it's in storage, or you don't want any mold to start growing on the outside of it. So you just want to clean your jars really well before you actually go and store it in your food pantry. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for watching this video. If it was helpful, please give me a like and a thumbs up down below. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave those down below. Also, I do try to respond to every comment I get. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe and follow along with my other canning, gardening, homemaking, cleaning, organizing adventures. There are lots of them, and I love to share them with you.